I just really want some money. Is that so bad?
Yeah.
Well, you go from money. Okay, let's take this to Don. You go from robbing a bank. You get money in this briefcase. You go across the border. Vampires. Just as a reminder, this is a spoiler-heavy podcast. Don't worry about that. Notes about the spoiled series are going to be inside the description. Welcome to the very first official episode of the Gaming Theater Podcast. Episode 1. What is a legendary artifact? Or a legendary creature in storytelling, for that matter? Alright, but before we get right into this, let's make a stop at the Magical Merch booth. Alright, here we are at the Magical Merch booth. And since it's been really empty, and it's our first episode, it kind of is empty here. I mean, they're still my friends over here from Gaming Theater Presents. Why don't you introduce yourself to these guys? Alright, so let's introduce each other. My name's Leo, the Geek Scorpio, and I'll be your host on this magical journey down these Gaming Theater podcasts.
I am Moontastical, and you have probably heard me many times in many episodes, and I'm happy to fill your ears with the worms of knowledge.
I'm Zombiehand, and I've been with Gaming Theater since the beginning, possibly known best as Marl in our Chrono Trigger playthrough, and eventually Prim in Secret of Mana, and in several other things I'll be taking part in.
And my name is Ben, El Penguin. I am the recently added Chicano of this podcast in group. So I'm actually not quite sure some of the people have named so far, because I haven't quite familiar myself with those characters. Do you guys remember what my guys people have voiced actual names?
No.
No, not really. The ones with actual names haven't come up yet for the most part, but we'll get to that anyway. In fact, the only thing we really have here is at the Magical Merch booth is the fact that we have this one pamphlet. So if you got to see what our stuff was far before we started with this podcast, check out Gaming Theater Presents on YouTube, and the link will also be in the description. But now, let's get back to the show. All right. So today, our big topic is what is a legendary artifact or legendary creature in storytelling. Now, originally, we did what is a legendary creature in gaming, and we'll still touch on to some of those subjects for it. If you guys haven't seen those episodes for our podcasters out there who have just been listening, that's fine. You don't need to watch it just to get the heads up. So, if I was to ask everyone here, when someone says this is a legendary artifact, what is the first artifact that comes to mind for you?
To me, honestly, the Spear of Spear of Destiny.
The Spear of Destiny, the Spear of Lungitis. That's a good one.
Almost said the Spear of David.
I think for me, I actually think it's King Arthur's sword.
All right, Ben?
Oddly enough, the first one that came to mind was the Holy Grail.
Nice. And those two kind of work hand to hand. That'll be discussed in a later episode, but later episode of Legendary Artifacts. But we'll get to those.
You have to stay tuned.
We do a lot of work on those ones, and they just keep coming up, but that's fine. So with this, the legendary artifact, an artifact by its definition, is any object that has cultural significance. Now, we'll start with artifacts first, and then after that, we'll get into the legendary creatures later on this episode. So, with that, an artifact is with cultural significance. So, it doesn't necessarily have to be important, it just has to be tied in with that culture. Now, the definition of a word that's legendary is anything that has, that's basically anything remarkable enough to be famous or very well known. So if you have a legendary artifact, it's something that's famous, super well known, and it's an object that you're going to have. And as if anybody knows, is for gaming theater's purposes, it doesn't have to be real. It could be an imaginary. But artifacts have been around ever since storytelling has been a thing. No matter how long ago storytelling is, storytelling is just an option that people have been doing for society since the beginning. And with those, I think those stories are ones that keep carrying over. And storytelling can be done in film, books, and video games, like our objects were. So if the stories are passed on and artifacts are put into those stories, the artifact takes almost a significant meaning behind itself. At least that's where sort of my thoughts on that goes.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I feel like that, taking the two meanings and smishing them together. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
There's initially just like any sort of item where you just sort of reference it and people were like, oh snap, I know what you're talking about. Like, yeah. Because now I'm just thinking just like fire swords.
We smush them together. So, like, let's break that down a little bit for you. So, when you're talking about storytelling for that, you're really just sort of just adding it. Sometimes they're added for flavor. For example, those fire swords that you mentioned, there was a deity in what is his name? He's the one that starts Ragnarok. Styr?
Who's knowledgeable in Norse mythology?
Mm.
Actually, hold up. We have computers.
I used to be a lot more knowledgeable in Norse mythology.
I have a whole episode on flaming swords. How did I not remember those notes? Give me a second here.
You had a whole episode. ¿Por qué, Leonardo? ¿Por qué no recuerdas?
Whoa. I just made the episode, and I just forgot where I put all the information. There we go. Okay, so Suitor, that's his name. Okay, so Suitor is from Jotun. That's from Norse mythology, and one of the things he does is that when he brings about Ragnarok, he will use a flaming sword on there. So the thing is that if we have a sword that's on fire, who's not going to notice a sword on fire?
That's true.
Like, it's like, hey, we have this giant beast and monster that's going to destroy all of the world. Let's have him have a sword on fire. That just sounds super cool. Let's do this.
Honestly, my mind more just went to like How to Train Your Dragon on how the dude literally made a sword on fire. Just like, no, it's here to just kind of make a statement. Look, whee! I was like, yeah, that's scary. That is a scary thing to just whip around.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's kind of a short part of that, but like, swords that are on fire is a thing that we've experienced as human beings currently. And swords on fire has basically been, with the caveat and the warning of, don't do this, it's a very, very stupid idea. Mm-hmm. Because to get a sword on fire, you basically take a sword, you cover it in oil, and then you light the whole thing on fire. Yeah, you look super impressive, but oil falls and you'll burn yourself. That's just what it does. But impressive. No one's going to mess with you on that one.
It's like, listen, this is cool, but just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Like, swords being on fire have been all the way back since in Genesis. Because so the Archangel Uriel, who's the one who locks down, who basically kicks everybody out of they get kicked out of the Garden of Eden. Yeah. So Uriel puts a sword on fire as the lock and door and key there. Just, all right, you guys can't come in. Well, what if we sword on fire, sets it up next to the door? All right, I'll take that as a no. We'll move on with this. But yeah, so these things take legends. Now, certain legends get sort of twisted and such. The Holy Grail and the Spear of Longinus, the Spear of Destiny, have two kind of interesting meanings for it. But the Holy Grail is kind of a fun one. If you have studied theology, especially in Catholicism or any of the Christianity ones, there's the Last Supper. One of the big things that Jesus does while he's there is to teach people how to do the sacrament, which anyone who's gone to church would have to go through the sacrament every time they go there, right?
Right.
It's a base story thing in Christianity. That's about it. But because it's tied in with such a famous person, with Jesus, it gets a life and a legend all of its own. It's kind of a thick one too. You see the Grail come up in Arthurian legend, and then you see it again in like other stories. There's an anime that's with that the Holy Grail? Oh, what is
Fate's
it?
Day Night?
Fate's Day Night, yes. But then you have stuff like, but you also have Indiana Jones. There's a whole movie for the third film on that is just the Holy Grail. So we just sort of keep moving these items along as they go.
Which Indiana Jones film do people just refuse to acknowledge? Is it the second one?
Depends on your flavor. The second one is the one that they refuse to acknowledge.
Crystals?
The item on that one is, oh no, that's the Shankara
fourth one,
stones.
I think, is.
The fourth one's the Crystal Skull. And that's the other one that people refuse. It's kind of like the Uncharted games. The odd number ones are you have Uncharted 1, it's alright. Uncharted 2 is amazing. Uncharted 3.
I mean, it depends. Some people still say, we can get into that later. Some people still say Uncharted 3 is their favorite. They're wrong, but anyway.
Yeah, and so I did, by the way, it because I went through Uncharted with yourself, Zombiehand, and it kind of was like giddy when I found out what happened at the end. Luckily, this is a spoiler heavy podcast, so I can just say what it is. Where El Dorado, remember?
The second one?
No, the first one, El Dorado.
Oh,
Because El Dorado is a city made of gold, but that's not what El Dorado is. It's in Uncharted, El Dorado is a sarcophagus made of gold.
Oh yeah, and it had the it had all the gold coins and stuff inside of it, or all the gold inside of it.
It also had like a poison, I think.
Yeah, it turned people into zombies, basically. It was a really weird adventure. The Nazi zombies were my favorite. Not really, they were really scary.
This took a turn. So, like, the other one that I thought was interesting is the Spirit of Longinus. Did some research for it. Yes, again, these are all future episodes coming up. But the Spear of Destiny, or the Spirit of Longinus, depending on who you're talking about, too. There was always a story that it's passed around to different warlords and conquerors, and even Hitler at some point. And the thing with that is that these are two different takes. The Holy Grail is always placed into a story that's defined as something that brings life. That's something that does good. Okay, it's always used for, like, in Indiana Jones, it's used to help bring back his father after he gets horribly shot. It's used to keep a knight alive for hundreds of years. But the knight is stuck with protecting the Grail in order to make sure somebody's worthy to use it. The spear, on the other hand, takes a different turn. That spear is considered as evil or related to something terrible, because it's what killed Jesus. And when it does that, it takes a whole meaning for it. There's also, I always did love it later on, where someone is like, didn't Hitler have the Spirit of Longinus? And the answer to that question is technically yes and technically no, because there's also technically more than one spear. That has to deal with popes. But yeah, so moving on from that. So some items are basically came up with from a situation or something famous. In this case, like a famous person that has that. Like Zombiehand was listening. There is Excalibur. Most people know Excalibur because King Arthur uses it. Not a whole lot of people know, more people will know that what Excalibur is than actually know some of the lore, like who Arthur's father is. Or
Uther
Pendragon. But the Sword of Excalibur is a story that almost everybody knows that it exists. Disney made a movie out of it.
That makes it official.
Mm-hmm. Makes it official that Disney jacked it.
Like, Disney made a movie about it, so that means that the story happened.
I mean, if the mouse says it happened, I mean, who's to argue with Michael Mouse?
What? I've never heard of this. Like Disney made a movie? I'm in.
Guess we'll do it again.
Michael Mouse.
Oh, that's right. It's Michael now. Michael. Oh. Now keep your mouth shut.
So with this, hope the boss doesn't come after me. So one thing that comes up is that these are just stories that involve people. So what if I told you that you can have an artifact that exists, and because of when it happened. So when you have an artifact when it shows up because of a time period, something that's symbolic of that time frame.
Oh, example?
Like the Renaissance?
Yeah, let's take the Renaissance for it.
A Michelangelo painting?
A Michelangelo painting. Or a painting that has secret codes like that book.
What? Oh, the Da Vinci Code?
The Da Vinci Code.
Yeah, I try to forget that exists. We don't talk about that.
Huh. We could potentially talk about it.
It's more of we might talk about that, but,
Exactly.
That's true.
Oh, man, the ball's already
we're
rolling.
talking about it now.
Ew, you're right. Leo, you brought it up.
I did. But yeah, so like you have items that are significant based upon events, things that happen. Like this. If I was to tell you what's the gun that won the West, because it's the time frame of the Western faction, you probably already have an idea of what that weapon is.
I don't. Maybe I do, and I just don't know it off the top of my head.
That was a Winchester rifle, right?
That's the one.
Oh.
Yeah, so it just is synonymous with that time frame. Another example of that is if you hear a story about the start of World War World War One, the guy who whenever the guy who assassinates Archduke Ferdinand, it always starts with a story of him eating a sandwich at a deli. And then but right before the car breaks down in front of his spot and he assassinates someone. There's no evidence to show that he actually ate a sandwich, it's just there. But you'll always have that story on it. It's one of those things that comes out of like legends for it. Like if you take even a beginner's class in the Crusades, the first thing they tell you is that someone shouts Deus Vult, but there's nothing that shows that somebody actually shouted the words Deus Vult. But yeah, so you can have it synonymous for a time frame. From good, some bad. Like an interesting one is the space shuttle is usually this not space shuttle, sorry. The what is it called? The hatch, the thing at the top of a rocket when they during the space program.
The rocket nose?
The what?
The thing on the nose, like it has
Hold
a
on, I'll
name.
Google it.
The nose.
Ah, excellent.
The nose goes. Nose goes over there.
It's the nose.
Hold on, I'm gonna Google this. Top of a rocket for NASA, not NASCAR. NASA
No, for NASA.
pilots.
I mean NASCAR. God.
What is it called?
It's a very thorough route.
Okay, I think I need to reword this.
Oh,
Of
that's gonna
a
bother me.
Space rocket. Payload,
No,
guidance, propulsion,
no.
the
Nose
the
cone
boop
is one of
snoot.
them.
The nose.
snoot so you
Boop
can boot
snoot.
it.
The nose cone.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's a nose cone. It's the top. That's where the nose is.
Nose cone? Really?
No, it's called a nose cone.
Ooh.
The payload system is in. Yeah, the payload system and the guidance system are in the nose
Those things
cone.
were tiny too. Like, the lem is another good one. Or acid wash jeans. You have those in the 80s all the time. It's technically an artifact.
Don't forget the mullet. That's an artifact.
It shouldn't be.
Should be.
But it.
Oh dear
just like
God.
the late
Oh, God.
80s,
Ben
early
and I.
90s
Okay, this is
shoulder
funny.
pads.
Ben and I have been benching the Golden Girls, and we just see the progression of it. Didn't really start, and then the peak of like all of them look like fucking rectangles and wings, and then finally it's starting to come down where it's not, so everyone looks like a rectangle. Oh my God, whoever, and I say this as a costumer, whoever decided to put shoulder pads in clothing for things other than like, I don't even know, they're ugly. Okay, there's no justification. They're ugly. Oh.
Well, it's just like bullet bras in the like 50s and 60s and stuff. Like bullet bras, I feel are just a travesty now, but you know, it happens.
I will only accept a bullet bra if it has an actual gun and bullets in it, and then I can be like the fucking boss from Austin Powers, which is
yes, and you can just
the fembots.
Oh my god.
yes. All right,
Oh,
Leo,
bullet broads.
you just
Yes.
got a new episode. We need something on bullet bras. Is a 20th century fashion artifacts,
Oh,
and
God.
we demand mullets, shoulder pads, and bullet bras.
That actually would be a really neat topic of conversation. You know, I know everybody does a lot of like fashion crap through the years, but it's like, why not we dissect that a little bit more?
Mullets, shoulder pads, and bullet bras. How did we get here?
It's like
Mhm.
we talk about the goods. Let's talk about the worst
No, you
things.
can do good
I
and
mean,
worse.
I wanted to do fashion design for a long time. I wanted to do fashion design and costume design for a long time, so I looked into a lot of that when I was younger.
There is like planned, like because we planned ahead. There is a couple of legendary artifacts that are fashion based.
I get to do two of them.
Yeah, you get to do two of them. One's on
I picked them.
it's tackier than hell, and one sounds awesome.
It's can I say?
Mhm.
It's
Yeah, go for it.
Elvis's sequin jumpsuit and the checkered suits or checkered shirts.
Checkered and plaid design shirts. Because like, if you look up seedy car salesman, go ahead, try Google seedy car salesman. I guarantee you, they're wearing some weird checkered suit. Also,
I'm Googling it right now.
yeah, go for it. There's, in fact,
Oh my god,
Yes.
yes. One of the first pictures is Danny DeVito from Matilda.
yeah, I forgot until I saw that picture. Like, oh yeah, Matilda's dad was a car salesman, and not a good one. He's a cheat. But yeah, that is your like standard look for just completely almost like a plaid checkered suit. And there's an important reason that they wear that. It's just now it's associated with with just seedy car salesmen or the 70s. You know,
You know, both.
And it's like, but what about the history of plaid?
oh no, there actually is a super huge history of
Scott,
plaid.
dating back to the times of the Scots.
Of that. It determines your clan. That's like basically their flag is their plaid. Yes, folks, I know an awful lot of these things, which makes sense since I wrote and researched since I researched 90% of everything in the legendary artifacts and the legendary creature stuff. I looked up a lot of things to the point that I have that I always playing with. I wonder what Google wants to advertise to me today. All right, let's see where you're going at with this one.
It's like, in conclusion, I've looked up a lot of things.
Now, an interesting take for an legendary artifact, which is kind of something that now this is specific to storytelling, is that they don't truly exist. They're made up for a story. They're a MacGuffin. And for those who don't know what a MacGuffin is, it's essentially an item or object that doesn't matter.
It gets the
but
plot going.
It gets the plot going. It gets the plot moving. Like, we have a legendary artifact on this one. There was an episode of our good friends at Podcast of Poseidon who did this. So let's see. Do you know what's like probably the most famous MacGuffin ever made? I'll give you a hint. It's Greek.
I know this one. It's the Golden Fleece.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner over here. The Golden Fleece does absolutely nothing. It does nothing.
It heals.
No.
Doesn't it heal?
That's added in from later storytelling. So the original Golden Fleece story, no, it does nothing. In fact, it shows up of act like 1.5 of this 5-act play about Jason and the Argonauts. And that's mostly about Jason.
I thought it was Icarus's wings, but I was wrong.
No, Icarus's wings definitely contribute a lot to the story.
See.
Like a big old MacGuffin is the money in Psycho. In fact, until I heard about this, like, oh yeah, there's a whole thing of stolen money in Psycho. Yeah, that's not the movie. That's just it gets you there. Actually, if you stop and think about it too hard, it's there's an awful lot of briefcases in money-filled briefcases that are used as a MacGuffin. Well, yeah, there's like From Dusk Till Dawn. That's how that whole thing started.
Listen, I just really want
In a briefcase.
some money. Is that so bad?
Yeah.
Well, you go from money. Okay, let's take Dusk Till Dawn. You go from robbing a bank. You get money in this briefcase. You go across the border. Vampires. Vampires are now a thing that you have to...
Listen, I'm not saying that it's good. I'm just saying I want the
I'm
money.
just saying,
Yeah.
for any of these stories, it does not work out well for everybody there. You get money, you put it in the briefcase, you take the briefcase out, and guess what? Now you have to deal with a psycho killer that you're staying in the hotel. Or, you know what? Yeah, let's go some Tarantino stuff. Who gets to do it twice with the same thing? Oh yeah, so like you have a briefcase, you replace money with diamonds, and and now that's been changed up, and then all of a sudden, every criminal who went after the diamonds, heist gone horribly wrong, and no one gets the diamonds
Jeez.
back at all. And that's Reservoir Dogs. There you go, enjoy that. But then that briefcase comes back again in Pulp Fiction, and is everything going to be fine? No, Marvin gets shot in the face by accident.
No, Marvin.
No. Oh no, I shot Marvin in the face.
It was an accident.
Oh my god.
Accident schmaccident.
Yeah, so like if I would like my funds to be not briefcase oriented. It does not work well. But yeah, basically made up for the story. That's about it.
But we needed his feedback about burgers, though.
Now, remember, something has to be culturally significant to be an artifact. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's a legendary. Legendary means it's super cool. It just adds a cool factor for it, which is probably why they just keep putting these things in stories and such. Now, I wonder, do you guys know of any like series or movies or such that they just keep throwing artifacts over and over again at you?
Librarians.
I was hoping
Probably don't. I don't know anything offhand, but probably Supernatural.
And it's like, man, their whole show is all about artifacts. Like, so what are we doing now? Grail, skulls, just like, well, let's see. We need a bamboo, blessed by a Shinto priest. Like, not again.
you can just trump that. Now, remember, you could also use a wood chipper. Just throw them in there. Call it a day.
Oh yeah.
I just was so happy that you said Librarians, because I didn't. I was one of the few people who knew about that series. It was crazy. It's like
I loved it. I really did. I haven't seen all of it, but the ones I've seen, it was pretty fun. I highly suggest it. It's very different, but yeah, it goes over artifacts and stories, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. I love it.
the only one I can remember is Excalibur,
Mm-hmm.
which takes a weird train because Excalibur in that you just use it to practice sword fighting. That's about it. It does like
Yeah, I know some of those artifacts, they kind of take a lot of sort of the mystique out of it, and it's more fact-based, but it's still magical. Does that make sense?
oh yeah, there's one of my favorite series that does basically artifact MacGuffin of the week is Warehouse 13, and that show doesn't get enough praise as it is.
Oh my
Warehouse 13 is
God.
amazing. They have like all these artifacts and they just put them in but because they do weird stuff, their goal is to find the artifact, get it out of the public eye, and lock it away so nobody can see them again. Some of them can be brutal, some of them just seem fun. Like
Oh.
some of them seem brutal and fun.
You are the only other person I know of that knows what Warehouse 13 is, because I watched that shit back in the olden days
in the old times.
when I was just when I
My
was
sister-
just, I say when
my
I was
sister
just
and her
a tiny
boyfriend-
baby moon.
Oh, sorry.
Baby moon.
Baby Moon.
Yay!
My sister and her boyfriend watched the shit out of that show too.
Damn, also, I was gonna say, when you were in your first moon phase.
Oh,
Oh, shut up.
Aww.
It's like,
Oh, I'm like Sammy was not about it, but me and me and Leo were like, "That's cute."
I made it funny.
It's because I live with him and I'm kind of immune to his shit.
No, it's cute.
It is cute. I love it. I adore it.
oh. One of my favorite artifacts in there, like they just throw out artifacts like left and right. One of my favorite ones is from the there was an expedition in the Arctic Circle, and what they recovered from that was a can of sardines. And they're like, I don't think you understand. And the guy, Artie, I think he's like the curator, but he's basically their boss. Just goes, hey, look. Somebody asked him, hey, look, a can of sardines. Listen, there was two troops that go up to this Arctic Circle, and they did not, and they were starving to death. They would freezing to death. Everyone had hyperpneumonia, and even they had the smart sense to never open this can, dude.
And then meanwhile, somewhere in Scandinavia, it's like, this is a delicacy.
Love it.
Oh,
Oh,
no, it's
God.
probably super evil, but see, it's literally evil sealed in that can.
No, listen, in Scandinavia, they eat evil for breakfast. I don't know if that's true, but it feels accurate.
No, that's true, but that's what Zombiehand told me, and I believe.
Yeah.
Don't
Also,
fact
there's like
don't fact check me on that one. I like being right.
And it's like, well, none of us are denying it, so... It's like, wait, we gotta appease our Scandinavian audience if we have any.
what is it? They have a bunch of them. Like some of them are really fun. I love the disco ball that from Studio 54, where if you bounce light off of it, you're immediately high. That's just what it does.
And where is Studio 54?
New York City. Studio 54 was a dance club in New York City, and it was notorious for being just filled with ecstasies to a point that its nickname was Wonderland. Celebrities would come in, just random people would come in. They have there's a person that's someone in there that's basically they let her in. Her name is the Disco Grandma.
Oh my.
And it was just nothing but euphoria in that place. And they essentially shut it down because they're pretty certain that they scammed something like millions and millions of dollars. There's one that I know that Liz has done that has nothing but artifacts everywhere in that.
What?
So
Uncharted?
Oh no, Uncharted. That is also true. Well, but you can also do Assassin's Creed.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't say everywhere, but there are certainly artifacts.
Assassin's Creeds take a weird turn. Essentially, they like take an artifact that exists and replaces it with their crazy Pieces of Eden system.
It's like Assassin's Creed. We like our history Easter eggs.
That's the funnest part of doing that. Sometimes it's a history Easter egg.
I liked in it was some Assassin's Creed. I want to say Brotherhood, I think.
Yeah.
Brotherhood. I don't think it was Revelations, but the character Sean would like talk to you about the various artifacts, and he was just like he was just a salty Susan about a lot of it. And it was so funny.
he just had a salty attitude.
Yeah, he was really fun, and yeah, I liked him. But he would like when you found something that was historically relevant, he would like butt in and talk to you about it.
He was like, "Oh my, look what you found! Oh, let's see what we got here now." And just like out of nowhere, and
he was British, so.
And you're just here, it's like, listen, Sean, I love having this conversation, but I'm also trying to learn how to parkour without dying. So if you can give me the history lesson a little later, I'm busy right now.
Yeah, that was fun. Those games are fun. I mean, I haven't. Yeah, I like. Anyway,
so let's go to the second half of this storyline, which is what is a legendary creature. So if you apply the same storytelling logic, you would then people have creatures that just sort of exist. Medusa, your get off of the Gorgons. There's more than one creature out there. Cyclopses, your dragons, zombies.
Ooh, so does that mean that like vampires, ghosts, and all those supernatural ones? Basically,
yeah, they're all creatures. Creatures basically is. By its definition, is something that's living or moving around and such on its own power.
It's like, hey,
but mostly they're living.
Like, hey, you're not human.
Or as we sort of dumbed it down, is it moving? Or does it? Is it like an animal? Close enough? Yeah, it's a creature. We'll throw it in there. Some of them that we bump into, like things are, like sometimes they're just myth and stories that run around there. Like Medusa's a really good one, and I can't tell if it's simply just because they just made Medusa up for the story. Most likely they just did, because Medusa deals with Perseus. Right. The weird thing about it is that Perseus just sort of bails, and Medusa's sisters are like, "Well, we tried."
And it's like, if I was Medusa, I too would just want people to leave me alone.
Yeah,
Medusa's story always makes me sad.
her story is really sad, really tragic.
It is. She didn't deserve any of that.
No, people suck.
Well, I will say her getting her head chopped off, that's how we got the Pegasus.
Yay.
That's kind of what happened, is they chopped her head off, and then a winged beast, a horse, Pegasus thingy, just kind of crawled out, and that's how it came to be.
Yeah, just comes right out. That
I mean, this is also the same mythos where one of the biggest horn dogs in the whole mythology is just like, this migraine's really killing me. Oh, what up, daughter?
What up, new kid?
It's like, huh? Well, I guess that's another way to go about it.
Listen, she was not gonna stay in there any longer.
Oh, God.
and that's how you get Athena.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, Greek mythology did Empreg before it was cool.
Oh. But you have things like almost every culture has their own version of dragons, which I always thought was
Oh
kind of
god,
weird.
yes.
But
it's just, I mean, like, don't stories when they just go by just kind of have like different variations depending on where you go to?
Yeah, but it's the reason why dragons are so like everybody has a dragon story, which is why you can make a dragon centered out of almost any mythology. And this is also why people theorize that dragons really did exist, because cultures that never interacted with each other until more modern times had similar, I mean, maybe their dragons looked different, but they had a similar idea about dragons.
Like someone going through is like, hey, y'all want to explain this level of consistency through all these years?
I actually kind of done a lot of research on this, and the theory, more plausible theory, is that there was just a bunch of several places there was just prehistoric like alligators or crocodiles, or there might have been a giant prehistoric salamander or something that is like really I can't say words. Elongated. There we go. So I got
Nice.
bunched up for a sec. Just elongated, like some type of serpent. That's where like the Chinese and the Korean got this. And then after over time there's all these stories, and then as time goes on, those creatures become less and less because of environment or food or whatever. So that's not exciting. So then they have to start embellishing it with all sorts of other stuff. Oh yeah, this is a magical dragon, and oh hey, it breathed fire that one time. Yeah, just trust me, it totally breathed fire.
Once upon a time, it went rawr, then everything burned down.
Hey, and it's like also the water dragons and whatnot, and just the big crazy shit. Just those were just their theorized again. It's like it's a prehistoric aquatic dinosaur.
Oh, like Nessie.
Yeah, kind of like Nessie, except different variation. So that's what, from my research, that's where the plausibility comes in. But people just dressed it up to be this big, beautiful thing, which is awesome. It keeps the stories alive, but it's kind of nice to think that they did exist. They just didn't exist as fantastical as myself. But
it's like, it's like they existed in their own fantastical way, and then it just kind of
moontastic.
Yeah, they weren't.
They weren't. That's why I say they're fantastical, because we're big fans of them.
Yay! Speaking of things that have been like translated like that, one of the weirdest pieces of research I found is one of the reasons why so many cultures know about the about unicorns is technically a mistake, a typo. So there was a single horn type of creature that they have in past in the Persian and Middle East area, and so when the Bible was being written, originally the Bible had those described, but in different regions and such, the most common version of the Bible is the King James version of the Bible. The thing with that is they don't have a word. They couldn't figure out how the word to describe that animal, so they accidentally put in the word unicorn on it. And since the King James version of the Bible is the second, or the Bible is the second most read book in the world,
What's the first?
kind of just Euclid. It's a thing about mathematics.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, it's just more copies of it there. But I think the Bible has more copies. But anyway, it is basically because that book has moved around everywhere. Now we just have, hey, there's a unicorn.
What's interesting about that, because you are having me do the unicorn research, is the unicorn was based off a ancient rhino. Let's see if I can, from my notes, the Elasmotherium sibiricum, and they lived in, Siberia. So, just one horn coming out of its head. And so, but because, as you say, it was in the Bible, people are mistaking that creature as some quote, like, I want to say biblical, ancient, I can't say words today. I'm so sorry. I'm a terrible podcaster. Like an
You're
angelic creature, because it's in the Bible, it must be heavenly, it must be this. And because of that, I feel like, virgins are holy, that's why the unicorn, you can summon a unicorn with a virgin. Or that's they're in the Bible, they should be white. I don't know where that, like, the lion tail or the cloven hooves came from, but just on the plausibility of these creatures existing, that's what I can just have pieced together ever so slightly. It's like, okay, they saw this prehistoric creature, they put it in the Bible, people got, it's in the Bible, it must be a heavenly creature. And then I feel like, again, that's where the white color comes from, and the being summoned by the quote unquote pure virgins of the world. And it's just really neat how something from so long ago still lives to this day, but it's so fantastical how it happens. Oh my god, I love it.
Oh yeah, there's other things that are out there, like sirens. Like, almost every myth has a thing about sirens. Like, it's just the notorious thing of, being tricked by a siren. That's just what happens.
I'm sorry. That was Frozen too.
The song of the siren calls me. Which is funny because, like, Dante's Inferno has a big listing on why we depict demons as they do. And Dante's, what is it? There's Inferno. No, Paradiso. The third book in that is one of the reasons why we have angels more human-like, especially with Renaissance paintings. Because the original, I always love the joke, the original picture of a description of an angel just goes, "Oh, sir," and as we can attest from our friend Rob, just says, if you read any of those, almost any time an angel shows up in the Bible somewhere, the first thing out of that guy's mouth is, "Be not afraid."
And it's like, and that makes you start wondering why. And it's like, well, let's look at the description. 1,000 eyes, at least 16 wings. It's on fire, so that's kind of interesting. Oh, let's see what else we have here. Oh, about the size of a semi-truck, so yeah, I'd probably give a warning out too.
Be not afraid, sir. This is the most terrified I have been in my entire life.
It's like, you're not a very good, negotiator, because now I'm just freaking out. I said don't be afraid.
Said it.
It's like, literally, I would have accepted peekaboo a whole lot more than that.
Your pep talk does mean nothing.
I will say, every time I see something about an angel being like, be not afraid, and it's that crazy stuff that the Bible describes, and then they're afraid, and then I think of that meme at the soccer, the Persian guy with his hands on his hips, kind of just giving you that, oh my god, are you serious look? That is how I picture the angels when we're like, be not afraid. Oh my god, what did I just say?
Oh, I love that guy.
I said not to be afraid. And it's like,
I said be not afraid.
So here's a thought on this. do you count a legendary creature as a person? Like a famous historical person who's done famous historical things. Like, say,
Wouldn't that be more of a legendary person?
that's what I'm saying.
Wouldn't that be more of like a legendary creature? I think you. I think yeah. I thought you said artifact. I was like, no.
It's like they're not objects, Leo.
They're not a. That's not a rock. But yeah, but if you equate it to people, you still have someone that's really famous, like Blackbeard Pirate or Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh.
I generally feel like that would just be its own category of like legendary like people, because creatures just feels like more of a broad term of just like non-human like things, or like when you say
Well, then I think we're gonna get into some sticky stuff. Like, well, I mean, because like the Minotaur, but I mean, I guess the Minotaur is also half bull.
and it's like what separates like what defines it as an actual creature, and then it's like okay, you're not a creature. It's like I gotta be a little more with you.
We're only going to talk about the what half of them, not the other half. That'll solve that. Well, sometimes you can get some crazy people out there, like Rasputin, who's been shot, stabbed, poisoned,
Clubbed.
and drowned, clubbed. Mm-hmm.
Thrown in a river, a freezing river in I think the middle of winter, where he should by all rights have gotten pneumonia, and instead he drowned or hypothermia.
Of all the hypothermia, because and that's not one of those things that we could say, hey, this is just elaboration. No, they found the bullets and the stab wounds and the stuff in his body. By all rights, he should have died 3 kills ago. Like, he is your unkillable boss.
This isn't one of those. Is it theoretical? Look at him. Look at this. It's like it looks. If it was in modern times, it looks like someone just threw him in a giant blender. He looks like he went through every single Saw game and somehow still walked.
He's here for Saw 1 through 4. Who does that?
It's like
no. Okay, I thought you had more, Ben.
No, also I was more. That's what I was actually just going through my mind. Just like, man, how do you go through? It's like, how do you lose multiple Saw games but still end up in a sequel?
So one thing we're going to have to take a step on too for this, as far as legendary creatures goes, is step into cryptids. There's something that's kind of different.
Oh god, yeah, you got Sam there. I'll stay quiet for these ones.
Ooh, I do love me a good. So when I was in my coding class, we were starting to program an app, and I wanted so badly to do. I pitched it, and it made it to like round 2 of the votes, but then it didn't get voted on again. I wanted to build an app that would hunt cryptids. But it was not really so much as like it didn't hunt cryptids. It was more like you put in your location and like, oh, we're going to be staying at this hotel or whatever. And and then it tells you what are the local cryptid legends and stuff around that area.
Yeah, cryptids get kind of... I think that it's fun.
So I don't know. I like cryptids. Oh, and then also, so when you're building something like that, you tend to use what's called an API, which is just an online database you can pull information from. And what was really great was there is actually and just so you know, like most apps will use an API, whether it's self-built or used by somebody else. So like they're very common. But there's actually a work in progress. It hasn't been updated in a long time, but there's already an API in the works for cryptids. And I was so excited because I wanted to pull from it, but yeah.
Isn't there a thing like no, I just needed a reminder of it. Wasn't there like this set of stories for cryptids that had like a lab that was basically storing all these cryptids and things in it?
Oh, the
SPC,
yeah.
SCP?
Or SCP,
yeah,
sorry.
SCP.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Secure, Contain, Protect.
SCP isn't really for cryptids, but it's for a bunch of other different crap that could be considered cryptids.
Yeah, I think that if you wanted to go down that route, you could say SCPs, but I feel like there's already so much SCP coverage that I don't think you could really get away with doing like a I don't know. I feel like you would really have to make an argument for doing SCPs, or maybe just do one episode on SCPs. There's so much coverage for them.
Well, so cryptid is like for that for SCPs. I probably will not do an episode for it, but cryptids are basically what mostly just mythological monsters that people like. Everyone says they saw one,
Like local
but they're
legends
mostly local
and
legends,
stuff.
right?
Yeah. The Jersey Devil, the Yeti.
Was it the Gator Man or something? Hold on.
Gator Man, half gator, half man.
Man, I feel like we could just have a whole series on just SCPs.
Yeah. Well, no, so that's not an SCP. Those aren't. I don't feel like we should touch SCPs, if in my personal opinion.
Yes, Gator Man.
No, SCPs is that, and that's fine. But this is more about cryptids and sort of their origin. They're just basically local legends that just keep showing up.
Mothman. My favorite Mothman, because I love
Mothman.
Yeah. Mothman.
Isn't Batboy a cryptid? Like from those National Enquirer?
What? Who? What?
National Enquirer is like
Wasn't that one of those tabloid things?
Oh, I was gonna say those.
Yeah, it's one of the tabloid things. And like every so often, Batboy shows up. And like, is that a cryptid or is that just the thing?
Oh, can I tell you my absolute favorite National Enquirer cover I ever saw?
Oh yes.
So it said, God, I love this so much. It said, "Nun divorces God and sues for half the universe." And I wish that had been a time. I wish that had been a time when, like, I was in high school. So if there was a camera on my phone, it was a pile of garbage. But my God, I remember seeing that, and I was like, I want to buy that. But I was like in high school, and
my favorite time some media or some show dealt with a cryptid was like in what was it? It's use my words. Gravity Falls.
Oh man.
So, now Gravity Falls generally has other cryptids, but I love this one because it's basically their Nessie knockoff. And Dipper's there. He goes, "All right, let's say that we're trying to take a picture of a cryptid. How do we do this? All right, Zeus, could you like demonstrate?" And he just does the same pose of like Bigfoot, and how he's about to just walk into a convenient bush somewhere. He's like, "Where's my camera? Oh no, I don't have my camera." See, that's the problem that we have here. Don't worry, that's why it has 17 cameras.
And weren't they like all out of film or something?
No, it's one reason or another. He kept losing cameras. Like one of them got picked up by an eagle. One of them got thrown.
God, Zeus was just an experience.
I like fed it to one of them had to be fed to the Loch Ness Monster. One of them, I think only one of them actually ran out of film. Like everything else had weird things happen to it.
Oh, I remember that. Like he dropped his one in the lake, and that's how you got the Loch Ness Monster picture.
Yes, and it's like, oh god, what? I think there was also one that was dumb where because he sues, I want to say it was Dipper, just like, oh man, we gotta catch up, we gotta drop some weight. Oh, I can just drop off some of these cameras here. Just like, no. It's like, this is why we can't get a picture to Loch Ness Monster.
So that's the question here. Is a cryptid technically the same as a legendary creature? I'd say yes. The legend's just not nearly as, potent. It's not as big as, say, the Leviathan, but your local legend still works, right?
I agree, and I agree with you, and I will tell you why. I agree with you. Did anybody watch the movie The Mothman Prophecies, Richard Gere?
I've heard of that.
Okay.
No.
So, in that movie, the reason why people wanted to know about the Mothman and whatnot is it was portrayed that he could predict calamities or catastrophes. So Richard Gere basically has a conversation with him over the phone, and what he tells him, this bridge is going to collapse. So he tries to tell everybody, hey, the bridge is going to collapse. It's going to collapse. And it doesn't happen. And then the bridge collapses. Because he's like, well, you predicted. And, oh, God, I can't remember the ending, but I think he said something to the effect of, like, how did you predict that? And Mothman's like, well, because I'm Mothman. Peace.
I'm out.
That's not accurate. That's not accurate, of course, but it's like they portrayed him as having these mystical powers of future sight. Yeah.
Listen, I'm just saying, if Mothman showed up to me and said that bridge is gonna collapse, I would assume it's because he was gonna do it, and I would just take him seriously.
So the Mothman just has a bunch of self-fulfilling prophecies?
Because he's the one that does it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I always thought. It's like, is he just being a troll, or is he actually trying to help people? Because that's another thing, is it's kind of ambiguous of if he's doing it to be benevolent or if he's just being a dick.
Well, okay, so, like, he could also have the problem of, like, Cassandra. You know, it doesn't matter who.
I was actually gonna make a reference to Cassandra, and how nobody actually believes her.
Yeah, that's Cassandra's curse, isn't it? She can see the future, and her predictions will come true, but she's cursed to nobody believing her.
Oh, that sucks.
Jeez.
Yeah, so she has all these things come to pass, and nobody believed her ever.
Did you ever watch, it was a small thing, and they dealt with cryptids and legendary creatures, like Hercules, the animated series, for a little bit that Disney had?
Bro, I just thought of that. Zombiehand said Cassandra, and then that made me think of, wait a second, I wonder if that's the same Cassandra from the Hercules TV show that I love so much.
It is.
It is.
She is from Greek mythology, so yeah, that would make sense.
Oh, I never realized that.
Oh yeah,
I was today's year old when I realized that she was an actual Greek mythology person.
So that series is fun because it handles with a bunch of Greek characters and creatures all over the place that Hercules has to deal with. Adonis is in that, so, you know, the guy is supposed to be perfect. And Poseidon, Hades, of course, and what is it? One of my favorite things is, like, basically they'll touch everything into Greek mythology except for that one episode when they had a crossover with Aladdin.
Oh, I love that episode.
Wasn't it with Aladdin?
Yes.
My personal favorite is what a scene in that is Jafar is, because Jafar is sent to hell. Basically, let's face it, Jafar went to Hades because he did bad stuff, and so Jafar is convincing him to Hades to help him capture his nemesis Aladdin, and he'll try to help him capture a Hercules. And so he's like, okay, so how are we going to get ahead of Aladdin? So they lay a bunch of bananas all in a row, and they watch as the boo just walks. He just comes by. Woo! Banana, takes it up. Then goes to the next banana, picks it up. Goes to the next banana, picks it up, and then gets captured. And they're like, all right, now we're gonna have to deal with Hercules' friends, but he doesn't have any animals that help him. There's no way we're gonna have to come up with something clever. And so they lay a bunch of bananas on the floor, and Icarus turns around and goes, "Oh man, a banana! Oh, look at this! Another banana! God. 3 bananas! I'm in potassium gold, baby!"
Jesus!
I remember that episode.
What the hell?
Oh my god, it is such a fun cartoon. Can I tell you my favorite episode?
Yes.
Okay, so I think it was the theater one where all the Greek gods came and Icarus gave them their Roman names. And you know what I'm about to say. Okay. So he's just like, he's this, and goes the credits, and then it just kind of cuts to like an after credit scene of Hades holding a paper saying, "Pluto, They're calling me Pluto? I wouldn't even name my dog Pluto!
Oh my god! Oh my god! Like, that's not breaking the fourth wall. That is straight, like, turned down from a Kool-Aid man burst right through. And just, like, of course, Hades just burst a fire behind him. It's like, I'm not calm anymore. I'm like, oh, no, he's not. No, he's not.
So that brings us up to the next point. Do you guys know any series or shows or books or such that just have a ton of these legendary monsters or creatures that pop up in there? Basically anything with a Monster of the Week series, I think, plays with that. Like, you almost always have your standard issue, like, Minotaur episode.
You know, now that we were talking about Hercules and Aladdin show, I actually want to do a dive and see if I can find any legendary animals and shit in the Aladdin TV series.
Well, I mean, if we're going to be talking about creatures, I mean, wouldn't Genie himself count as a djinn?
Yes, he's a djinn.
A djinn, yeah. That's where genies are basically djinns. Yeah, Aladdin, that series actually did have a Minotaur, which I love it because the Minotaur comes out and does this. I am the Minotaur. I am the winner of 99 battles. Who dares to defeat me? And gets into a fight with Aladdin. He loses and then shows up at the end of the episode going, I am the Minotaur, winner of 99 battles and loser of one, where I got my horn stuck into a wall.
Oh my god, I love it. Yeah, there's so much. Oh my gosh, my nostalgia wheels are turning. I'm thinking of all the episodes that I just absolutely... I'm gonna do this now. I'm gonna do it. Leo, be prepared. You are going to have a list.
Amongst the other, like, 16 lists of things. So, yeah.
You will be lucky number 17.
It's like, but we need more lists.
More lists? But yeah, if they don't make it into a regular legendary artifact or creature of gaming episode, then we'll definitely talk about them here on the podcast and just open it up for it. Which I think is a great way to get us out of this mess. Does anybody have any kind of final thoughts about this? Personally, I could go on and on with legendary artifacts and creatures, but I'm because I am a history nerd and the mythology nerd and just a fun at trivia night nerd.
Nerd.
Love that for you.
Ben, you are related to him. I don't even want to hear it.
Leo, you dork.
I'm not denying that.
Look, I've seen how many animes that you watch, and I've seen how many of these things show up in those animes, so...
Oh yeah, like, honestly, if we're gonna go into a bunch of sea creatures, like, I could just go down to One Piece, like, listen, there were multiple Krakens that just hang out.
Yeah.
There are gigantic kois.
They lust after women and smoke cigarettes and crap because it's One Piece, and the whole anime just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but then we can also go into, like, the classical, like, nine-tailed fox. Which,
that's a creature by itself.
Fish people.
Mm-hmm.
You can go with Sun Wukong.
Actually, oh my god, yeah. The amount of animes that have references of Sun Wukong.
All of them do. No. There's just the one big one.
My final thoughts are, don't give up on your dreams, kids.
If your dream is to meet the Mothman, don't give up. The Mothman might be there. Now, the Mothman might give up on you. That's...
No, he won't, because I am a child of his church, so I will never give up my dream of finding Mothman.
Oh.
Aw. Any other final thoughts real quick?
Mothman.
Always tip your waiter.
Aw.
All right. Well, thanks for everybody listening for this first podcast, and I hope you enjoyed this little EXP boost, and this is Gaming Theater, logging out. Bye.
Bye. Gaming Theater Podcast is hosted, created, produced, and edited by Leo Garcia, the Geek Scorpio. Our music is A Drinking Game, stock media provided by Stormwave Audio /Pond5. Our cover art is made by Kayla Dawn. You can find her at facebook.com/Kayla Dawn Draws. That's Dawn, D-A-W-N. If you want to send us some money to help with these episodes, you can do so at patreon.com/gamingtheaterpresents. Want to send support that doesn't hit your wallet? Please leave a review with wherever you hear your podcasts and share our podcast with your friends. It really helps out. Thank you for listening.